How poetic that one cinematic universe Zack Snyder helped shepherd and lift off the ground dies with a whimper on the same weekend his original cinematic universe begins to take shape. My name is Ren, and this is my review of Rebelmoon Part 1, A Child of Fire. Welcome back, film family. Thank you for joining me to discuss Part 1 of Zack Snyder's franchise starter, Rebelmoon, which originally began as a pitch from Zack Snyder to Lucasfilm for a Star Wars movie. And our story begins when a peaceful colony at the edge of the galaxy finds itself threatened by the armies of the tyrannical Regent Balisarius. In response, the colony dispatches Kora, a young woman with a mysterious past, to seek out warriors from neighboring planets to help them take a stand. And as a frame of reference, not only is Star Wars one of my favorite franchises, Zack Snyder is one of my favorite directors. So you combine two things that I love, and I was more than excited for Rebelmoon. But it turns out this is a very strange movie to discuss, negatively or otherwise. Rebelmoon as an idea built momentum and excitement off of encapsulating Zack Snyder's vision in a film free from the shackles of WB. Netflix gave him free reign to deliver what he wanted. But turns out, the visionary, which Zack Snyder absolutely is, so publicly acknowledges that the real version of the film is so radically different.
The director's cut of Rebelmoon is an alternative reality version. It's not an extended cut of this movie. It's almost like a different movie, it's almost a different universe.
What we have right now streaming on Netflix is a PG-13 cut of the film, and the director's cut is mentioned as something radically different, as sort of an alternate universe version of the story we just saw. And in the version of Rebelmoon I'm discussing in this video, the one that's on Netflix, so many of the Snyderisms are taken out. When you take those out of Zack Snyder's Star Wars, you get Star Wars, which we already love. It already exists. And it seems like Netflix has purposefully hacked up a movie in an attempt to reverse engineer a director's cut.
By the way, it was Netflix's idea. They're like, well, but what if there was like, do whatever you want over here, the PG-13 version, and then just go nuts. We don't care.
It makes me personally optimistic about the real movie within the director's cut, given it's so supposedly different and fully captures Snyder's vision. All the while, it makes it not feel right to call the Rebelmoon I just saw, the one that's available for everyone on Netflix, a terrible movie, given it's clearly only half of one movie. And this is where the many troubles of Rebelmoon Part 1, A Child of Fire, begin. Suffice it to say, we're not getting into spoilers in this review. The movie just dropped today, but when it cut to credits at the end, I just thought to myself, this was clearly never written, structured, or engineered to be two movies, and it was clearly something cut for time. Rebelmoon is a remix and a rework and basically a cover song of many things. Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven, Star Wars, A Bug's Life, all those things combined. But it can never elevate itself above being a cover song. You'll have many cover songs that are great. Exceptionally, you'll find a cover song better than the original. This is not the case. And like I said, when you take out all the Snyder sensibilities and just leave glimpses of it, you get a sample size, you get a teaser, a feature-length teaser at 2 hours and 15 minutes of what the real movie is. And there are many pieces in Rebelmoon for you to enjoy. There are many compelling pieces. The premise is compelling. The sci-fi epic, space fantasy epic that Zack Snyder constructs is all here. He has a knack, a sensibility for large-scale epic storytelling, memorable visuals, captivating world building. But his story, which he was a part of writing the story, leaves a lot to be desired. When it comes to the performances, all of them are good. But through the bulk of this film, it's a bunch of people recruiting new people and then going to recruit more people. And the new people that were just recruited just stand in the background looking, giving way for some incredible action set pieces. Zack Snyder knows how to handle action and he brings in all these spices from different sci fi tales. He captures this magnificent universe with so many landscapes, so many different planets, so many different species of creatures. And you're just enticed by all of this. But all of them just feel like samples. You'll have lightsabers and you'll have hippogriffs like straight out of Harry Potter. And you want to know more of these. You want to know more of these planets, of these worlds, of where these people come from. But you get none of that because the entire film is recruiting, 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 and then a rushed third act that just jumps straight into battle. And that's what's so frustrating because it has all these elements that I love in so many other stories. It has all these interactions that allude to a past and backstories and are so compelling to get teased about, but then it pays none of those off. They recruit a man who can communicate with animals, can see deeper within their souls. It does nothing with it. They recruit an entire army of two badass space warriors, and they do nothing with it. They recruit a woman who is haunted by the past, who has this conversation with a giant spider woman and battles her. She comes from this background of having lost a mother or having lost a child, characters that have gone through the ringer emotionally, but it pays none of them off. It builds the steam and then leaves you wanting more for part two. Obviously, when part two comes out, rewatching this film, it may work better, but it leaves a lot to be desired on its own. Every sequence in this recruitment quest is captured with that Snyder edge to it. He injects that distinct style of him into each planet, each character. Whenever you're watching a Zack Snyder film, you know you're watching a Zack Snyder film. He has that unique sensibility about his visuals where his action is bombastic, it's frenetic, sometimes brutal, and he has these moments of glorious Whenever he does slow mo, a lot of people complain about it. I certainly don't need as much slow mo as he delivers in this film, but he always delivers it with a purpose. There's always something more about it. And he might indulge a bit here. Certainly, these sequences become repetitive because it's always new person, and then they stand in the background. And the more people they recruit, the more people are standing in the background. But they all set something up about these characters that is interesting and that could bring something more compelling to the characters, to the dynamic, to the entire ensemble. But then it leaves all these setups dangling, hopefully for part two, but it doesn't pay any of them off in this film. Now, this would certainly not be an issue in episode 4, 5, 6 of an 8 or 10 episode epic event series. But as a movie where so many of these elements are set up and none of them are paid off, leaving you just wanting the actual movie where the story takes place, it gets dragged down by all these elements where a ton of the lore, a ton of the mysticism, a ton of the setup is just here. It feels like the setup. Like I said, it feels like the teaser for the actual movie you want to see. No arc is resolved, and so much of it is interesting. That's the thing. The first half of Rebel Moon Part 1 has all this promise to it. You can see how big the scope of Snyder's vision is, but then in the second half, you can also see how a lot of it gets cut down to shreds to leave room for more. but without paying any of it off here, without accomplishing really anything. The film looks fantastic. I certainly think Snyder, as an action filmmaker, shows what he's capable of here. He's assembled an exciting group of actors, an exciting group of characters, and I do want to see more. But by the end of Rebel Moon Part 1, I don't feel like I needed to see this Part 1 at all. And sadly, it feels like more of the usual we get from Netflix. Something that looks great, but its ideas are so cut down, are so undermined. I don't mind leaving it in the background without getting anything worth my time or emotional investment in return. Just doesn't feel worth it. I certainly hope Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scar Giver, elevates this cover song, because it's a cover song of so many things I love. And it's got all these elements, it's got all the aesthetics for me to love it. But sadly, I was extremely disappointed. I was severely wanting so much more, not only out of this cinematic universe, but out of Zack Snyder, who, when he's free from any shackles, which this movie was supposed to deliver, he truly delivers a unique vision that excites, that compels, and that immediately captivates you. Rebel Moon Part 1 just did none of those. So, with that out of the way, as I dive into my final thoughts on Rebel Moon, it's time for you to start the conversation about it in the comments below. How excited are you for this film? How excited are you after watching this film for Part 2? And what is your favorite Zack Snyder film? Anything and everything down there, start the conversation. And if you're enjoying this review, want to see me talk more movies and TV, this is the place to be. Consider clicking that subscribe button, and you won't miss any future conversations on your favorite movies and TV. Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, sees Snyder's distinct auteur style permeate with stunning imagery, bombastic set pieces, and captivating world building. But the compelling pieces fail to create a memorable whole in a film that inherently exists as a cover of more iconic tales in only half a story. I'm giving Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, a C. Thank you so much for watching, Film Family. Start the conversation about Rebel Moon Part 1 in the comments below. Share your excitement for Rebel Moon Part 2, and big shout out to my channel members for always supporting the channel. I'll be back very soon with the last few reviews of the year and the end of year lists, so look out for those. Until then, love each other and love the movies.